The captain of India's World Cup winning T20 cricket team and the two captains of Indian democracy, whom shall we celebrate, whom shall we respect, and who will make the difference in the end? Welcome, Vanakkam, and Jai Hind. It's a matter of pride for all Indians that after a gap of nearly 2 decades, our cricket team has done the country proud in the recently concluded World T20 Cricket Championship. Quite predictably, the returning team, the heroes, our cricketing heroes, were given a rousing reception, and the Prime Minister of the country found time to give them the recognition and the honor that they so richly deserve. I was quite impressed with the amount of time that he devoted to this particular duty that he owed to the country, and he did it exceptionally well. But while I saw him in full flow, I couldn't help asking myself a question. The question is, why can't 10% of the respect, recognition, and worth that we ascribe to our cricket team and the cricket captain be ascribed to the leader of the opposition of the world's largest functioning democracy? Are we to say that democracy is a low priority with us as compared to cricket? And those who contribute to the cricketing glamour of India deserve to be on a pedestal higher than those who safeguard the health and wholeness of Indian democracy? I'm sure every responsible citizen would be asking himself or herself this question. And I thought I would share these thoughts with you because, like me, there would be millions who would have felt more or less the same way about this contrast between how we honor a cricket captain and how we systematically dishonor and denigrate the leader of the opposition, whoever that person be. We are not interested in persons as in public courtesies in offices. You would recall that soon after the parliamentary debate concluded, I posted a video in which I expressed strong protest about the way the Prime Minister of the country was booed and jeered as he addressed the Lok Sabha. And I said at that time that this was unbecoming of India's democratic culture, irrespective of who is the incumbent in this august office. It's our duty as citizens in a democracy to respect high offices like the office of the Prime Minister, the office of the President of India, the office of the leader of the opposition, the office of the Speaker of Lok Sabha, so on and so forth. Of course, it goes without saying that those who occupy such exalted positions also need to conduct themselves accordingly. The person in the office must match, and that is a sign that our democracy is in a sound state of health. But what we see on the other hand is that while glamorous events are celebrated, events really of fleeting significance, emotional, euphoric, which really has no lasting impact on the culture or character of India, certainly no bearing on the well-being of the people of India, we somehow fail to do justice to those who really matter, and particularly from the perspective of the health of our democracy. Now, I have expressed my views at length about the unfair treatment of Rahul Gandhi, who spread over a period of 15 years, when everything was done to denigrate him and to deny him the merit that was his due, simply because he happened to belong to a party, simply because he happened to belong to a distinguished family, as though in this country it has become a shame and a crime to belong to distinguished families. In the same manner, I'm perhaps even more troubled when the high office of the Prime Minister of the country is not accorded the respect and the um, uh, recognition that it deserves. Now, here, both the leader of the opposition and the leader of the ruling party, namely the Prime Minister of the country, need to recognize that if they don't accord to each other the recognition and the respect that their office mandates for them, irrespective of personal feelings and dispositions, they would be eventually doing a disservice to themselves. And they will do the country a great disservice. I'll deal with the disservice to the country first, and I'll come to the persons later. Now, what do the people of India see? They see people in high offices going all out, doing everything they can and everything that they should not, to denigrate each other, quite unmindful of the dignity of the office that they hold. And what happens to the people who are witnessing this ritual of mutual acrimony? They begin to think that all these offices are empty and bogus. After all, the leader of the opposition says that the leader of the ruling party is of no good, and the leader of the ruling party uses all his rhetorical powers to prove the same about the leader of the opposition. So, if the leader of the opposition and the leader of the ruling party both are equally worthless, going by their own mutual allegations and acrimony, then the people of India have only one conclusion to arrive at, namely, all these people are worthless. It cannot be that the office of the leader of the opposition is denigrated, its incumbent dragged through the mud, and the office of the Prime Minister of India remains intact. Because after all, in a democracy, the office of the Prime Minister or the office of the leader of the ruling party and the office of the opposition, leader of the opposition, they are two sides of the same coin. So, denigrate and undermine one, automatically the other two gets denigrated. And both together, both parties in this diabolical ritual of mutual acrimony and mutual denigration, they together spread very dangerous levels of cynicism among citizens, and they also cripple the capacity of citizens to entertain an attitude of respect towards public functionaries, public processes, public institutions, and eventually this will also denigrate the very worth of life itself. Because life is an organic whole. If you besmirch one part, if you foul one part, the rest also gets fouled, denigrated, degraded. So, we are now involved in a very dangerous process of destroying the capacity of Indians to harbor an attitude of respect for public offices in general. If the two highest offices in this country, namely the office of the Prime Minister and the office of the leader of the opposition, is subjected to routine denigration, and the aura of dignity and greatness attached to these offices is deliberately and in an orchestrated manner dispelled, ruined, then the consequences are very serious, very terrible. Young people in particular will develop an attitude of contempt towards all important public offices, and everybody suffers in the process. And what I want to emphasize is that the young people themselves suffer a great deal in the process. What will they suffer? Now, all my life has been spent in serving the youth of India. Therefore, I have some claim to understanding the youth, how they look at their situation, how they view the society, their psychology in general. What young people need at this very important period in their life is a sense of excitement. Young people have lots of energy, they have plenty of idealism, they're very keen to do things, and they want to be inspired so they can put out their very best in the service of the country, society, etc. I can vouch this based on immense, extensive personal experience that if you can inspire young people, they will do wonders. On the contrary, if you infect them with cynicism, by every day telling them that the incumbents of all these important offices are good for nothing people, they are riffraff, then what are they to make of the world or the society to which they belong? There are these big offices that are supposed to be great, august, glorious, etc., but they are occupied by very small people, petty people. And from there, they will proceed to the most unfortunate conclusion that everything about national life is dull, drab, disappointing, and in fact very cheap. What will happen? Young people will sink more and more into cynicism and hopelessness, and they will never make the kind of good efforts they can. They will never develop their potential. The potential of human beings is developed only when they are inspired to work towards a cause which is beyond them, which they perceive to be larger than them. Like, for example, the future of the country. And what is the business of these important offices? Many people think that the significance of the office of the opposition leader or the prime minister is to carry out some administrative business. That's a very narrow and childish view to take. In my line of thought, the foremost duty of these public functionaries, President of India, Prime Minister of India, Leader of the Opposition, Vice President of India, Speaker Lok Sabha, even Chief Ministers of States, governors, judges of the Supreme Court, judges of the High Courts, so on and so forth. People who enjoy great visibility in public life. Their foremost duty and their greatest contribution to national life must be to awaken in the citizens of India an attitude of respect and reverence to the country as a whole. They are to be the sources from which positive vibes or positive energies are radiated through the length and breadth of the country. Looking at them, the young people, even children, should feel inspired to prepare themselves to serve their country to the best of their ability, in which case even discipline in education institutions will be taken care of. Let me here mention an example to make my idea clear, then I'll stop. Socrates is quite rightly acclaimed to be one of the wisest men humankind has ever seen. Socrates, who lived in Athens, ancient Greece. Somebody asked Socrates as to why it is that Athens has expert trainers for horses, but no teachers for values and morals. See, in our schools we have value education textbooks and value education teachers. Even though Athens laid a lot of emphasis on education, strangely, in Athenian school of education, there were no designated teachers of values and morals. So a person got curious, and who else to ask except the wisest man around? Socrates. And the answer that Socrates gave must be understood by every person who has any public visibility, certainly by those who hold exalted offices in India. Socrates said that there is no need to appoint special teachers to teach values and morals, because the main duty of the lawmakers, now, lawmakers are members of parliament at the national level, members of legislative assemblies at the state levels. And in the Greek context, they were called lawmakers, members of legislative assemblies. He said the foremost duty of the lawmakers is to be sources of inspiration for the society as a whole to lead values based life. Their life must be the school in which the coming generation is taught values and morals. Can you believe this? That is the extent of expectation that was enjoined on the incumbents of these high offices in a sane and healthy culture like the culture of Athens. Small culture Athens produced great cultural products, including great thinkers. On the other hand, we in India seem to revel in and we seem to specialize in denigrating our national consciousness, belittling our public culture, and by casting aspersions on each other, desecrate every important public office, the offices to which especially young people look up, in order to derive some inspiration, some hope, some expectation, some positive energy. And those who do so today, those who look at these so-called exalted officers, a young person, I won't be surprised if his heart sinks into his boots. I really want to plead with everyone concerned. Let's not do this disservice to our country and ourselves. India's potential is truly awesome. And the main reason why we have not done justice to our incredible potential is that we have failed in cultivating an attitude of reverence to life. On the other hand, the entire system that we have developed over a long period of time systemically denied worth to the vast majority of people. I don't want to go into the sociological ramifications of all of this. And to make matters worse, as we come into the modern democratic age, we use our democratic freedom and the democratic institutions to continue this work of destruction and denigration, so that what little vestige of expectation or keenness or enthusiasm there might remain in the minds of young people is also destroyed. And I worry about the huge devastation that this brings about to the attitude of young people. Many of them are battling serious problems of cynicism. I used to ask my students when I was the principal of the college as to how many of them read the newspapers. A very sizable portion of my students said that they gave up reading newspapers because they felt depressed reading the newspapers. There was nothing that they found worthwhile, valuable, they could derive from any of these newspapers. Rather, reading newspapers or being exposed to the media world would make them feel depressed. And if those who hold high offices of the country, like the Prime Minister, leader of opposition, etc., they further intensify that process of increasing cynicism in young people, this country will suffer a very serious crippling effect. I'm really worried about it. I'm worried about it to an extent that I cannot really fully express. So I plead with all concerned, not just the Prime Minister or the leader of opposition, everyone who has any visibility in public life, please hold on to the bottom line of courtesy, human dignity, and cultural health and wholeness in the way you conduct yourself in the public space. You are watched by 140 crores of people. They are directly and substantially affected by every word you say, every look you exchange, every stand you take, and the sum total of all that you do in the public domain. Guided by or impelled by some fleeting immediate benefits or gains, if people who hold these high offices succumb to the temptation to stoop down and to conduct themselves in a manner unbecoming of their office and unbecoming of the expectations that the people of India have reposed in them, the faith, the trust, the respect, they would have, perhaps not knowing it, they would be doing serious disservice to this country. And nothing is no achievement is worth thereafter. So, the foremost duty, as Socrates would have said to our politicians today, the foremost duty of a political leader is to be a role model for the youth of India in the way they talk, the way they conduct themselves, in the strategies that they devise and resort to, in the goals that they pursue, and the manner of pursuing these goals. In the totality of their life, they have to be sources of inspiration, not sources of depression and discouragement to the youth of India. And I hope this anguished request is heeded, and that there would be a marked improvement in the way public business is transacted, parliamentary business is transacted, and in the way political blocs interact with each other in the days ahead. Jai Hind.